My fiancée held a wedding with her assistant, so I turned around and agreed to an arranged marriage with a wealthy. Heiress, we had been in love for 10 years, and I was finally walking down the aisle with my CEO girlfriend. But her assistant had photoshopped my face out of our wedding photos, replacing it with his own, and was now displaying it on the grand screen for everyone to see. Her friends in the audience started to hoot and holler. This photo looks so much better. Who knew Carrie and Nathan would look so good together? Hey, keep it down. Sincere gets jealous so easily, he's going to flip out. But I just calmly agreed. They do look like a great couple. I turned to look at Caroline Preston, only to realize she hadn't even heard me. What I saw instead was the undisguised, girlish shyness in her eyes as she gazed at that photoshopped wedding picture. I let out a dry scoff and walked out of the stuffy hall. I called my father, whom I hadn't spoken to in ages. "Dad, I'll take that arranged marriage you set up." Just as I hung up with the old man, a call from Caroline came through. "Sincere Miller, can you please get a grip on that foul temper of yours? It's our wedding day, and the groom has vanished. Even if you're mad about the photo, Nathan already apologized. What more do you want from him?" I could only manage a bitter smile. She didn't even know when I had left the hall. It wasn't surprising. After all, her eyes were filled with nothing but Nathan Vance. She didn't have a single glance to spare for me. Nathan explained everything. His mother is critically ill and just wanted to see him get married. He just used our photo to create a picture to make her happy. "Can't you be a little more magnanimous?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. When it came to Nathan, Caroline always told me to be magnanimous. When Nathan sabotaged a project I had worked tirelessly to secure, she told me to be magnanimous. Now, Nathan had sabotaged our wedding, and she was still telling me to be magnanimous. The simple truth was, she just didn't care about the things that mattered to me. "I'm ordering you to get your ass back here right now. After the wedding, we have an important client to meet tonight." With that, she hung up. Caroline was angry. In the past, whenever she was angry and used the word order, I would scramble to do her bidding. But this time, I had no desire to obey her orders. The old man sent me the address to meet my blind date. Just as I clicked on it, a message from Nathan popped up. He sent a picture. In it, Caroline was wearing the wedding dress I had chosen for her. Her chest pressed tightly against Nathan's arm as she gazed at him with deep affection. It came with a text, "Boss, you're in for a treat with the missus's figure. Don't thank me, I just gave you a hand. You know. By the way, I like squeezing the right one. It seems a little bigger than the other now. Make sure you work on the left one after you're married." I could feel Nathan's smugness through the screen. In the past, I might have stormed into the hall and landed a solid punch on his face. But now, my heart was utterly calm. I only felt that the hand I had held today was a bit dirty. This wasn't the first time Nathan had sent me provocative messages. So, when the wedding photo incident happened during the rehearsal, I knew exactly what he was up to. But Caroline always believed Nathan unconditionally. Even when I showed her the messages from him, she would turn a blind eye. Instead, she would scold me, asking if I could ever grow up and stop making a scene. The phone rang, and I realized I had already answered it. Caroline's roar came through the receiver, "Sincere. What did you say to Nathan? He said he was going to help me convince you to come back, but now he's over here crying his eyes out." I didn't get angry, I laughed. "Fine, Caroline. You can keep siding with Nathan. You can keep pinning the blame on me. I wasn't going to make a scene anymore, because I just didn't care anymore. This relationship had run its course. Whatever he says, goes, and I'm not coming back." With that, I hung up the phone. I hailed a cab and, following the address my father gave me, found the blind date he had arranged for me, Willow Harrison. She was petite and delicate, but when she spoke, her voice was surprisingly sharp and composed. "Mr. Miller, as I understand it, you're supposed to be getting married soon. Why are you on a blind date behind your fiancé's back?" Just as I was struggling to figure out how to explain, Caroline called again. I was about to decline the call when I suddenly heard Willow's voice. "It's all right, Mr. Miller. You can take the call. I glanced at her, then at the contact name for Caroline on my phone, which I hadn't had the chance to change yet. Steeling myself, I answered, "Sincere, are you determined to embarrass me today? I've told you 1,000,000 times. Nathan is just my assistant. There's nothing going on between us. It's just a wedding worst case. I'll throw you another one. Don't be so ungrateful even without speakerphone." Caroline's voice was loud enough to make people around us turn and stare. For 10 years she had dangled the prospect of marriage over my head. But now, I had lost all desire for it. "No need. I wish you and Nathan an eternity together." After hanging up, I let out a long sigh and looked up, ready to explain to Willow. But I was met with her smiling, knowing gaze. "No need to explain, Mr. Miller. I'm very satisfied with you. I've cleared my afternoon schedule. We can go get our marriage license first." After leaving the city hall, I sent a photo of our marriage certificate to the old man. He immediately wired me a huge sum of money, telling me to throw a spectacular wedding. I turned my head and saw Willow struggling with her phone. Leaning in for a look, I saw she had posted a photo of us and our marriage certificate on her social media. She was busy replying to her friends in the comments. The look of natural happiness on her face left me in a bit of a daze. I took out my phone, intending to see what she was saying, but I realized we had no mutual friends. All I could see was a like from my father. Instead, I unintentionally scrolled to a post from Nathan. It was a video of him and Caroline continuing the wedding. The caption read, "Well, folks, somehow I ended up married." In the video, Caroline walked through the ceremony with a blissful smile, firmly saying, "I do." I used to think that seeing such a scene would make me break down in tears. But now I just felt calm. Caroline had given Nathan's post a big fat like. Colleagues from the company flooded the comments with congratulations. "I always said Miss Preston and Assistant Vance were a perfect match. My ship has finally sailed exactly." Unlike Sincere, a white swan like Miss Preston was always way out of his league. Neither of them offered any explanation. From the moment Caroline and I got together, she never let me post anything that would officially announce our relationship. Once, I posted something secretly. Not only did she rush to clarify things in the comments, but she also ordered me to delete it immediately. I always thought she just didn't want to expose her private life. But now I see. If there's no love, there's no love. While Willow was changing into her wedding dress, I got a call from the hotel manager. He said Caroline had contacted him about rescheduling the wedding but wanted to add 4 more tables for Nathan's family and friends. Since I had been the one handling all the wedding arrangements, adding 4 tables would exceed my original budget, so the manager was calling to confirm with me. "No need. Cancel the reservation." The manager was stunned for a moment. "And book your highest tier wedding package for me. I'll be in touch to confirm the details." Hanging up, I looked over at Willow, who had just finished changing. Dressed in a pure white gown, she looked like an angel who had fallen to earth. As she walked toward me, I was momentarily lost in a trance. She took my hand, used her other hand to lift the hem of her skirt, and excitedly pulled me toward the photography studio. She seemed to radiate a warm, comforting light. On the way, we accidentally bumped into someone. As I helped the person up, she suddenly called out my name. Sincere, I looked closely and saw that the person we had bumped into was one of Caroline's best friends, Jessica. She looked from me to Willow, then back again, and shrieked in disbelief. "You cheater. I knew something was up when you disappeared halfway through the wedding, so you were off with your homewrecker. How could you do this to Carrie? She's been with you for so many years and was about to marry you. None of Caroline's friends were easy to deal with. 10 years ago, when Caroline and I first got together, they ganged up and used her name to demand I spend money to please them. After they learned I had a falling out with my family, they took every opportunity to persuade Caroline to leave me. After Nathan appeared, this one in front of me was the most vocal of them all. This time, I wasn't going to tolerate it. I sneered back. "Since you all want Caroline and Nathan to be together, and they've already had their wedding, please stay away from me from now on, and remember to wish them an eternity together on my behalf. Also, this is my fiancée, not some homewrecker. If you run your mouth again, I'll pull that tongue out for you." Ignoring her yapping, I turned and led a slightly stunned Willow away. The wedding photo shoot went incredibly smoothly. Even though Willow had to change into many different outfits, she enjoyed every moment of it. I recalled my photo shoot with Caroline. We had booked a package with 4 outfits and 4 styles, but after just one, she impatiently ended the session and rushed off to a date with Nathan. I shook my head, pushing the thoughts away. Since I had decided to accept the arranged marriage, it was time to make a clean break with the past. After dropping Willow off at her home, I said goodbye and headed back to the apartment I shared with Caroline to pack my things. Unexpectedly, I was locked out. The passcode didn't work. After several failed attempts, the door opened from the inside, but the person standing before me was Nathan. He was wearing my shorts and the matching couple's slippers Caroline and I owned. His hair was still damp. Seeing me, a knowing, provocative smile spread across his face. "Boss, you're finally back. The old passcode was the day you two got together, right?" Well, Carrie was afraid I'd feel uncomfortable, so she changed it to the date of our first time. I bet you don't know when that was, do you? Here, let me enter it for you. Nathan moved aside, clearing a path into the apartment. I ignored him and walked straight in. He closed the door and followed me, as if he wouldn't be satisfied until I punched him. Perhaps hearing the door close, Caroline emerged from the bathroom wrapped only in a towel. "Nate, didn't I ask you to get her words?" And Nathan's name died on her lips when she saw me. She tensed up visibly. Sincere, the place I was entertaining clients with Nathan, was nearby. I just let him come here to rest for a bit. Nothing happened between us, don't misunderstand. Their relationship was so blatant, there was hardly any room left for misunderstanding. Caroline kept her underwear hidden in a concealed corner of the closet. Her casual instruction to Nathan clearly indicated it wasn't the first time he'd fetched it for her. A male assistant who can retrieve the female CEO's underwear. It was obvious to anyone what kind of assistant he was. Right, no misunderstanding. A flash of scorn crossed Caroline's eyes, and she adopted her usual high and mighty attitude. "Sincere Miller, what is that supposed to mean? My friend told me everything. You hired an actress to take wedding photos with you this afternoon. You're trying to make me angry, aren't you? Well, now I've made you uncomfortable, so we're even, but you ruined my wedding today, and you made Nathan cry. Now, I want you to apologize to him immediately. It was always like this. Regardless of who was right or wrong, the outcome was always me apologizing to Nathan. At first, I refused. I'd present evidence and argue with Caroline. She would just give me a disappointed look and ask when I was going to mature. Every time I saw that disappointment, I would feel an inexplicable sense of inferiority and panic, because I was afraid of her leaving me. But all it got me was her and Nathan pushing the boundaries even further. Over Caroline's shoulder, I could clearly see the bedroom. The clothes she and Nathan had worn during the day were strewn about. Her lingerie was hanging on the bedside lamp, and a torn stocking lay on the floor nearby. I let out a bitter laugh. "Did I interrupt your wedding night? Caroline, we're over." Caroline's eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean, over? You dare to break up with me?" I looked her straight in the eye and repeated, "Word for word, Caroline. Let's break up. Do you understand me now?" This time I was sure she heard me clearly, because she froze on the spot. Nathan sidled up, putting on a fake sanctimonious act. "Boss, it's all my fault. I was tired after entertaining clients with Miss Preston and begged her to let me rest here. I was wrong. If I'd known it would affect your relationship, I would have just taken a cab home and rested on the way." I was speechless at Nathan's two-faced act. To my surprise, Caroline turned on him first. "You." "Shut up." Nathan clearly hadn't expected Caroline's anger to be directed at him, and immediately shrank back. "Sincere, I know you're upset today. I'll hold another wedding for you tomorrow, and I promise nothing will go wrong. I'll handle the issue with Nathan, okay? It won't affect the wedding tomorrow." With that, Caroline went back into the room, quickly dressed, and dragged Nathan out the door. Looking at the now quiet room, I sighed softly. After packing all my belongings, I left the home I had shared with Caroline for 10 years. I didn't look back once. There was nothing left for me there. After all, tomorrow my wedding with Willow would proceed as planned. And then, Caroline and I would become two parallel lines, never to intersect again. Perhaps it was the anticipation for the next day's wedding, but I woke up bright and early. After picking up Willow and taking her to the hotel, she went to a suite upstairs to get ready in her wedding gown. I stood at the entrance of the ballroom with my father, Arthur, greeting the guests. Most of the attendees were business partners of my father and Willow's father, George Harrison. Very few were my own friends. Then again, I didn't really have many friends. A few of Willow's friends came, and whether it was at her instruction or not, they were all very warm and welcoming to me. It helped ease some of my feelings of alienation. Everything proceeded smoothly. Once most of the guests had arrived, the wedding began. Standing at the center of the stage, I suddenly felt a wave of nervousness. It wasn't until I saw George Harrison walking Willow down the aisle and saw her gentle smile under the veil that my heart began to settle. When George placed Willow's hand firmly in mine, I suddenly felt the heavy weight of a new responsibility. Following the ceremony's schedule, I lifted Willow's veil, we exchanged our vows, and prepared to exchange rings. But just as I was about to place the ring on Willow's finger, the doors to the ballroom were thrown open. Sincere Miller, what is the meaning of this? You don't even come to pick up the bride on your wedding day. I turned to see Caroline, dressed in a wedding gown, standing furiously at the entrance. Behind her were her parents, Richard and Brenda Preston, Nathan, and a large crowd of her family and friends. The hotel manager tried his best to stop them, but he was no match for their numbers and was pushed aside. He could only scurry over to me, his face full of apology as he explained the situation. It turned out that when I told him to change the ballroom, he didn't know the bride was also changing, so he had informed Caroline of the new venue. He only realized the mix-up when I confirmed the final details with him. I waved my hand dismissively. It wasn't really his fault. From his seat, my father stood up and shot me a questioning look. I could only give him a gesture that said, "I'll handle this." I turned to apologize to Willow, but I saw her giving her own parents a reassuring glance. Then she turned back to me, her eyes filled with unwavering resolve. I couldn't help but think that if this were Caroline, she would have started screaming at me without a second thought. I took a deep breath and turned to face Caroline. Before I could speak, she had broken through the security and rushed up to me, slapping me across the face. "Sincere, have you had enough of this game? Didn't we settle things yesterday? I said it wouldn't affect today's wedding, so what is this new drama you're pulling?" Almost everyone present was my elder, so I couldn't completely lose my temper. I spoke to Caroline in a cold voice. "I made myself very clear yesterday. We are over before I could finish." Caroline cut me off. "Right, you said you wanted to break up. That's just your little game of playing hard to get, isn't it? And when I don't fall for it, you hire an actress to fake a wedding with you. I've seen this woman before. Isn't she the actress who was with you at the photo shoot the other day?" Before I could respond, Nathan ran up to add his 2 cents.
"That's right, boss. Miss Preston has already seen through your act, so just give it up."
"I see the clothes these extras are wearing look pretty expensive. You really splurged, huh?" Then he turned to Willow, continuing his provocation. "You know, little lady, even if you're short on cash, you shouldn't take just any job. A gig like this, what if the groom turns out to be a scoundrel and forces you into the bridal chamber after the ceremony? You'd be at a huge loss." Nathan's words made my blood boil. Enough, but with so many people watching, I forced myself to stay calm. I pulled the marriage certificate from my pocket, opened it, and held it in front of Caroline's face. "Do you see this clearly? Caroline, you and I are over. And let me introduce you. This is my wife, Willow Harrison." As Caroline stared blankly, Willow stood on her tiptoes and gave me a kiss. I hadn't expected her to do that, but I maintained a calm expression on the surface. I glanced at my watch. It was about time. I took Willow's hand and started walking toward the altar. Our wedding was about to begin. As we passed Caroline, she seemed to snap out of her daze and grabbed my sleeve. Sincere, this is all fake, right? You love me so much, how could you possibly leave me and marry another woman? I shot an apologetic look at Willow, and she simply gave me a look that said, "It's okay." I turned back to Caroline and said in a voice devoid of all emotion, "Caroline, it's true that I loved you very much, but that's all in the past. My wedding is about to start, and my bride is waiting for me. Please, give yourself some dignity." Caroline still clung to my sleeve, screaming hysterically. "Impossible, absolutely impossible. When you cut ties with your family, I was the one who stood by you. Tell me, what did I ever do to wrong you?" I laughed instead of getting angry. "Stood by me? How do you have the nerve to say those words? Do I have to expose all the sordid things between you and Nathan in public before you'll finally admit it?" She stood up, questioning me with an unprecedented level of self-righteousness. "Then tell me, what could possibly be going on between Nathan and me? I've told you a million times, he's just my assistant. You're the one getting jealous for no reason." Caroline seemed to genuinely believe she had hidden everything perfectly. If I hadn't seen Nathan suddenly flinch, I might have started to think everything I'd seen and known was a hallucination. At that moment, I was incredibly thankful that I had been interrupted when I was about to block Nathan. Otherwise, all his provocative messages would have been deleted. I gave a cold laugh and pulled out my phone. To my surprise, Nathan lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. "Boss, look. Miss Preston said it, so she must have a clear conscience, right? I'm just a poor assistant. Miss Preston is a woman of her status. How could she possibly be interested in me? Besides, I'm a coward. Even if I had the guts, I wouldn't have the nerve." I smiled. So, their alliance wasn't so solid after all. I turned and gave Willow a look. She immediately understood and took a few steps back. I swung my arm in a wide arc and slapped Nathan hard across the face. Smack. The crisp sound seemed to make the air in the room stand still. Nathan fell to the ground, clutching his face and staring at me in disbelief. Caroline, snapping back to reality, let out a shriek and rushed to check on Nathan. "Nate, how are you? Are you okay? Sincere, what gives you the right to hit him?" I took the wet wipe Willow handed me and wiped my hand, looking down at the two of them. "Caroline, you come here and wreck my wedding, claiming I'm the one you should be marrying. You keep insisting there's nothing between you and this Nathan, but when he gets hurt, you're the one who's most concerned, the one who's most anxious. Don't you find that ridiculous?" With every sentence I spoke, the expression on Caroline's face became more and more twisted. Finally, as if she had come to some sort of realization, she stood up and challenged me. "Fine, I admit it, I do like Nathan. But how does that conflict with me loving you? My love is too big. Can't I share a little with someone else?" For a moment her words left me speechless. When I first found out about Caroline and Nathan, I just thought I was a poor judge of character. Now, I was starting to wonder if I had been completely blind. After 10 years together, I had never realized how bizarrely Caroline's mind worked. But Sincere is just an ordinary man. He gives his love wholeheartedly, and naturally, he expects to be loved wholeheartedly in return. Willow suddenly spoke up, pulling my thoughts back on track. I shot her a grateful look, and she returned it with a gentle smile. I took a deep breath and continued, addressing Caroline. "Exactly. That's your freedom. I can't accept it, so we're over. From now on, who you love and how many people you love has nothing to do with me." Caroline was still relentless. "But I love you the most. I like Nathan, but nothing happened between us. I didn't betray you. If there was a God's eye view, you'd see my eyes rolling into the back of my head." Losing my patience, I finally raised my phone. When Nathan saw it, he panicked and tried to stop me again, but I didn't give him the chance. I found my chat history with him and displayed all the photos and videos he had sent me right in front of Caroline. Caroline's expression shifted from confusion to shame and then to fury. "Impossible, this is fake. You. Sincere. To break up with me, you'd even resort to photoshopping pictures and spreading rumors." But the conviction in her voice faded, until finally she spun around and kicked Nathan hard. "Nathan, didn't I tell you that our relationship had to be a secret? How dare you send these directly to Sincere?" Nathan, as if he had nothing left to lose, clutched the spot where she had kicked him and struggled to his feet. His face contorted with rage, he screamed at Caroline. So what if I sent them to him? He's a goddamn doormat. He saw the messages I sent and didn't even have the balls to say a damn thing. Caroline seemed stunned by Nathan's sudden change in attitude. But I had no time to watch them tear each other apart. If you two are going to argue, please leave and argue somewhere else. Don't continue to disrupt my wedding. With that, I turned to walk into the ballroom. But just then, Caroline's mother, Brenda, darted to my side and grabbed my hand. No, today you either marry my Carrie or you pay back all the money my daughter has spent on you over the last 10 years. Caroline's father, Richard, rushed up to support her. That's right, you were a stray dog we took in. Mooching off my daughter for 10 years, you wasted all of her youth. Pay up. I almost burst out laughing. Seeing that Caroline had no intention of reining in her parents, I calmly asked, "So, how much do you two think I should pay?" Brenda, seeing a glimmer of hope, eagerly held up 3 fingers, about to speak. Richard quickly stopped her, held up 5 fingers and said first, $5 million. You ate my daughter's food, used my daughter's money. $500,000 a year for 10 years comes to $5 million. How about that? A very fair price. Seeing their greedy faces, I just gave a cold smile. Fair? Fair my ass. Caroline's company was started with the $1 million I brought from my family. I am the company's largest shareholder. But for the last 10 years, I've only taken the basic salary for my position, and even that money was used to cover our daily expenses. As for my shareholder dividends, out of trust for Caroline, I let her manage them completely. But let me ask you, where is all that money now? Hearing this, Caroline flinched and hurried forward. Sincere, my parents are just talking nonsense. I haven't agreed to our breakup yet. Why are we talking about money? I cut her off before she could finish. That's enough, Caroline. The fact that we've broken up is set in stone. As for the money, I wasn't originally going to make a big deal out of it. But you should never ever have used my money to buy a house for Nathan, Caroline argued frantically. What are you talking about, Sincere? That house was our marital home that I bought for us. You always said you wanted a real home after we got married, so I wanted to surprise you and bought a house. I looked at Caroline like she was a hopeless clown, my voice devoid of any emotion. Even now you're still treating me like a fool? Caroline fell silent. She knew exactly what she had done. She just always thought I wouldn't do anything about it. She was just banking on my love for her, feeling fearless. But none of that mattered now. My wedding was about to begin, and I was about to start a new life. Just as I turned to leave, a thought occurred to me. I glanced back and said coldly, "And one more thing. Maybe I really was a bit of a doormat before. I thought that by taking a step back, I could keep the peace. But I don't think that way anymore. I took a step back, and you took a mile. So now, I'm taking back everything I lost." With that, I turned and walked into the ballroom. My wedding with Willow concluded without a hitch. I drank a lot at the reception. Every time my father looked at me from his table, he looked like he wanted to kill me. I knew what he was thinking. He was just afraid I'd get too drunk to perform my husbandly duties and delay his chances of having a grandchild. But Willow just stayed by my side the whole time, smiling quietly. It wasn't until we were sent to our bridal suite. In a haze, I heard Willow's soothing voice. "You've had it hard all these years." And then I laid my head on her lap and cried my heart out. The next morning, I woke up to see Willow, still in her gown, sleeping propped up against the headboard. A wave of guilt washed over me, but at the same time, I felt a sliver of relief. Grateful that I had agreed to my father's arranged marriage. After the traditional visit to Willow's family, the whole marriage affair would be officially settled, and then it would be time for me to collect my debts. When I arrived at Caroline's company with the legal team my father had assigned me, she was in her office, worried sick. Nathan had disappeared. Apparently, after they left my wedding, Nathan had gathered some assets and company project files and skipped town. Of course, those assets included the deed to the house Caroline had bought for him. When Caroline saw me, she instinctively started to order me around. It was only when she saw the people behind me that she realized why I was there. "Sincere, you told me not to disrupt your wedding, and I didn't. Are you really going to disregard our 10 years together? I was the largest shareholder in Caroline's company. That fact had never changed. Over the last 10 years to grow the company, she had diluted her own shares more than once, but she had never touched mine. This wasn't out of any sentiment for our relationship. It was simply because even my shares were effectively managed by her, and I was completely subservient to her. She remained the absolute ruler of the company, and diluting her own shares helped her avoid accusations of impropriety. However, the man she was so sure would never leave her was finally forced into opposition. I had decided to completely restructure Caroline's company. Naturally, there would be no place for her in it. Hearing this news, Caroline, as if grasping at a lifeline, knelt before me and begged, "Sincere, you still want this company. It must be because it holds our memories, right? Think about our past. Can't you please not kick me out? It doesn't matter that you're married. I can be your mistress. I know a lot of tricks now. I'll be good, not like Nathan. I'll be quiet and make sure your wife never finds out, okay, Sincere?" Before today, even as we became strangers, I had never imagined she could be so revolting. Forcing down the nausea, I said calmly, "If you could prove your ability to manage the company, perhaps you might have had a chance to stay, but now you have no chance." My father was a pure businessman. Taking over Caroline's company was, in his eyes, a perfect opportunity where timing, location, and people all aligned. That's why he was willing to support me. To grow the company to its current value, Caroline did have some skill, in addition to my support. Under circumstances where only profit mattered, perhaps my father would have been willing to let her continue managing the company. Unfortunately for her, my father had witnessed her entire tantrum on the wedding day. He just hadn't wanted to intervene, which is why he let Caroline's family and Nathan act out their farce like a bunch of clowns. But I'm sure he remembered Caroline and had already labeled her as unhinged, and no one would hire an unhinged person to make them money. Leaving the professional team to their work, I was leaving the company to pick up Willow when I happened to run into Caroline, who was leaving with a box of her belongings. I rolled down the car window and gave her one last piece of advice. "I told you before that I would pursue the matter of you using my card without permission. I suggest you find Nathan, otherwise you'll be taking the fall for him." The house Caroline gave to Nathan was a gift, but she used my card to buy it. Suing for fraudulent use of a credit card would only land Caroline in jail, but I didn't want Nathan to get off so easily. And as expected, people tend to exhibit incredible efficiency when faced with a crisis. Just 2 days later, Caroline sent me a message saying she had found Nathan. It turned out Nathan was hiding in the very house Caroline had bought for him. When she found him, he had just called for an in-call massage therapist. The sight nearly made Caroline explode with rage. She had bought a house to keep her man, only to find out he was just after her money. He was even spending her money to enjoy other women. Caroline wanted to confront Nathan right then and there, but the current Nathan wouldn't show Caroline the slightest bit of courtesy. A benefactor with no money is worse than a dog. Nathan insulted Caroline in every way imaginable, causing the once proud woman to gradually lose her sanity. Of course, she might have retained a shred of it. After all, she only got into a fist fight with Nathan, and the massage therapist called the police. Both of them, bruised and swollen, were taken away by the cops. The message I received was sent by Caroline when the cops were about to release them, and she got her phone back. After sending the message, she was still fuming and got into another fight with Nathan right outside the station. So, they were both taken back in, where they remained until I arrived at the police station. When Nathan saw me, his first reaction was to run. Perhaps the slap I gave him at the wedding left a lasting impression, making him understand the consequences of angering a patient man. I just don't know if his 2 fights with Caroline would give him a fear of women. It was only during this round of questioning that Caroline finally disclosed that Nathan had run off with her funds. This caught the attention of the police. Upon investigation, they discovered that Nathan was, in fact, a habitual offender. Using his handsome face and well-honed silver tongue, he had moved between several major cities, scamming numerous women. But in the past he had been careful, never letting the husbands of his victims find out. It was only with Caroline, who constantly defended him against me, coupled with my then blind love for her, that Nathan developed the illusion that he could get away with anything, even metaphorically shitting on my head without consequence. But the final result was that this affair spiraled into the most unmanageable situation. Nathan had already contacted a real estate agent and was planning to cash out on the house and flee in a few days. He never expected Caroline to track him down and get him thrown in jail. But what he didn't know was that the agent he contacted knew the original salesperson for that apartment complex. The agent casually mentioned the sale to the salesperson. The salesperson, afraid of being implicated in Caroline's credit card fraud, had been paying close attention to the property. Upon learning the house was for sale, she immediately inquired about the details and informed Caroline, which is how Caroline was able to corner Nathan in the house. In the end, Nathan was slapped in silver bracelets for fraud. The next time he gets out, it will likely be in 10 years. The house was recovered and returned to Caroline. She sold it at a discount. Caroline personally covered the difference and respectfully returned my card to me, which is what convinced me not to press charges. After this incident, I completely cut off all contact with Caroline. The next time I heard about her was about 6 months later. A pregnant Willow was bored of staying at home all day, so I took her with me to inspect the restructured company. An old employee from Caroline's era told me that an old acquaintance wanted to send me a message. I raised my hand to stop her before she could say more. Seeing her resentful look, I could only imagine how much of Caroline's story was embellished. But none of that had anything to do with me now. I gently stroked Willow's belly. If she's part of the past, then she should stay in my memories. Because the new people in my life have already moved forward, and there's no looking back. The end.